Jeff, congratulations again. Just, you talked about how quickly this whole thing came together. What was the process like for you realizing that a deal could be had and getting it done the way you guys did?
It all came together, pretty quick. We were unable to come to, agreement, for arbitration. And, that same day, Billy came to us and said, he got an agreement to, for a multi-year deal. So super happy, I'm super, happy to be a New York Met for, a long time, and super grateful for, the organization to, have that much, faith in me to, be able to get a deal done.
You mentioned that journey and the tough road that you did have to get to where you are today. Looking back on it, what do you think it was that kept you going when, a lot of things seemed to be working against you for a long time?
I think I knew I had the talent. I knew I could play in the big leagues, and it was just, kind of overcoming, those injuries and getting back on the field. I think one of the reasons I was injured was because I was getting better on the field. I put on some weight, I put on some strength, and ultimately I think that led to me getting hurt. But in the end, it also helped me get to the big leagues. I was able to, keep that weight on and, keep that strength and that power. And I think that's what put me over the top. I've always been a, 300 hitter, just never hit for any power in the minor leagues. And, that changed in 2018. I think I hit 19 homers in the minor leagues and hit 340 or whatever I hit. So, I think that put me over the top. So, but I always knew I had the talent. And, just to, see it all, come together and pay off, it's awesome.
You've always been a confident player, even from the time in the minors where you said you knew you had the talent. I know you've always known who you are as a hitter, but did you learn something a little bit extra over these last 2 seasons and kind of overcoming that lone down year that we've seen from you and determining what you need to do to be a consistently successful player?
I think, having a bad year in 2021 was, not fun for me. It's not where I wanted to be, but I think it actually, helped me win the batting title in 2022. I found out what worked and what didn't work, and, I got back to who I was in 2022, and I think I found, the real hitter I am, and, I can take that into, some future years, and, hopefully, there's many more batting titles to come.
All right, Jeff, I'll leave you with this. Individually, it was a great season for you. Team-wide, it was a fantastic season, just didn't end the way that you guys wanted it to. As you've had a couple of months, taken a step back and reflected on the last year, how do you look back at what you guys did as a group and what you need to do to ultimately get over that hump this season?
We had a really good team. I think we were a 101 win team, so by far the most wins I've ever had as a New York Mets. So that team was special. I think we're getting better this off season as well. So I think there's a lot of high expectations coming into this year. We want to obviously go a lot farther than we did last year. It was a little bit disappointing, losing the Padres, but we're gonna have some high expectations coming into spring training, and I'm sure this team is hoping for nothing less than a World Series.
Jeff, congrats again. We'll see you in a couple of weeks in Florida.
Thank you.